President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We would like to now hand over to counsel for Mr. Kyusampon to continue putting questions for the witness. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President. Mr. Witness, in January of this year, when you took the stand for the first time, you were questioned on communications within the army prior to the seizure of Phnom Penh, before victory. And you stated that you received your orders sometimes by radio, sometimes by messenger. These are military orders. Now, as far as radio-issued instructions, you stated that sometimes there were problems that arose, and that's exactly why each unit had to enjoy a certain level of autonomy. I'll quote you, which is on page 52 of the French version of the transcript, between 11:35 and 11:40 a.m. You stated, and I quote, "A company had to take its own decisions and manage its own forces in order to keep a situation under control." Do you recall having provided that explanation with regard to why each unit had to enjoy a degree of autonomy?
Response. Can you please repeat the question? I'm afraid I don't quite understand it.
Je vais faire très simple.
I'll just read the 4 lines of what was transcribed on the 11th of January, and I quote, "During combat, communications were difficult and often took time. Quite frequently, there were problems occasioned by radio use, and sometimes the messages came too late. Other times, it was too late to care for the wounded." And further on, you state, each small unit, such as a platoon or a squad, was able or had to take its own decisions in order to manage its own forces in order to keep a situation under control. End of quote. Do you recall having made that statement in January?
Response. Yes, I do, partly. I already stated like that.
Dans cette description,
based on that description, you reveal some difficulties with communications. And my question now focuses on the period that followed victory, not the period before the fall of Phnom Penh, but during the time that you were in Ratanakiri. So can you please describe to this court whether during that period your unit knew or was able to have its communications improved, or did the status quo remain? Can you please provide some details on that particular period?
Response. At the beginning, communication was not adequate Later on, this didn't improve very much because radio communication was frustrating and we could not convey the messages on time, and it remained like that for some time.
En janvier dernier,
And in January, you were also asked questions on how you entered into duties of your new assignment in Ratanakiri at the end of 1976. You made a statement that even took me by surprise. You said, I traveled there by bicycle. So do you confirm that you began your new job by bicycle at the end of 1975? I stand corrected. It was in 1975 that you were assigned to Ratanakiri and you traveled to your new location by bicycle.
Response: Yes, it is correct. We left Phnom Penh by boat and we got off the boat at Crotches province. Then we continue our journey on bicycles, and it took us 2 to 3 days before we reached our destination.
et le reste.
And the other men who were under your command, did they also travel by bicycle? How did your unit relocate? How did they travel there, or was the means of bicycle transportation a preferential mode of transportation?
Response: A lot of people were riding the bicycles, but not all. Some also took the cars, and there were several hundred people who were seen riding the bicycles on this long stretch of journey.
Et vous qui étiez
And you yourself, sir, who were deputy commander, you were unable to travel by car or by military truck?
Response: Yes, I was in charge of the regiment, but we were equal anyway. The soldiers were riding bicycle, and I had to blend in with soldiers, and it was my personal commitment, though I had to take the bicycle rather than taking the car, and the road was not very good for car. It was good for bicycle.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. On several occasions, during your interviews with the investigators from this tribunal and even before this chamber, you were spoken to about the reasons given to you at the time with respect to the evacuation of Phnom Penh. Your explanations on all of those occasions were rather consistent and clear. In fact, on page 63 of the French version, at 1:42 p.m., you stated, based on experience, I can tell you that when a zone was conquered, the plan was always to evacuate the zone in order to avert the emergence or explosion of new combat in the conquered zone. And further on, at 1:43 p.m., you talk specifically about the evacuation of Phnom Penh. And you said that in that instance you were given the same instructions to evacuate the city. And you indicated, and I quote, even if the enemy was defeated, there were still some pockets of enemies here and there. You also said something, and this is where my question is geared. When we took control of Phnom Penh, we didn't. We kept on moving for reasons of security. We were worried that our troops would be attacked by the remaining vestiges of the conquered army. Therefore, can you please specify or elaborate on that particular statement and in that particular choice of words by saying that we didn't remain straight? And that at the time you had some apprehensions or you were fearful of some attacks launched by the defeated army.
The President, International Co-Prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Merci, ce n'est pas une objection.
Thank you. I don't have an objection to lodge, Mr. President, but I believe that Counsel Verken is referring to the draft transcript, since the page numbers he is providing does not correspond to the final and official version, which reads as follows. When we took control of the situation, we did not stay at the same location. And the French version is from the draft, which is not reflective of the final. I believe that this is a slight discrepancy between the first version, which is the draft version, and the edited version of the transcript of the hearings of the 11th of January. Counsel Verken, thank you very much, Mr. Prosecutor, which does indeed clarify that issue. Nevertheless, Mr. Witness, can you tell us if, in your opinion, it was possible, as you had stated, for your troops to be attacked by any remnants of the defeated army?
Response. Yes, I agree with the statement because it was part of the tactics in the war, and we were located in the city. The environment was not as that in the countryside. We employed the same war tactics to ensure that our troops are fully secured, and this is the way we have done.
Apparemment, d'après vos déclarations.
Now, based on your statements, that fear remained even after victory, because between 1:46 and 1:49 p.m. on January 11th, you stated that your unit was in charge of providing protection to the Department of Propaganda, and that you were making rounds in the city of Phnom Penh in order to advise the ministry of any imminent or possible attack. Is this correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Avant la prise de Phnom Penh,
And before the capture of Phnom Penh, as you stated, your superiors explained how things were to unfold after victory. And when your superiors gave you the orders to evacuate the city, were the reasons that were given to you then simply military and strategic reasons? Were there any other reasons that were disclosed to you at the time?
Response. Practically, that was part of the military tactic. It was decided within the military, and I have no knowledge of whether people had been allowed to return to their home, because as a soldier, as a person in charge of the regiment, I had to ensure that the vicinity was free of civilians.
Est-ce qu'à un quelconque moment,
And at any point in time, did any of your superiors tell you that the evacuation of cities was justified by a need to punish city dwellers?
Response. I am not quite familiar with such assertion, and we had never known if that was part of a sanction or the punishment to be inflicted onto the people. No, that's not my knowledge.
Je voudrais vous poser quelques...
I wish now to ask you a few brief questions on the ceremony that you attended at the Olympic Stadium. The ceremony during which time an announcement was made on the creation of Division 801 along with other divisions. First, a very straightforward question that you've already been asked and that I will repeat here. If you can just situate us in chronological terms. When in 1975 did that particular meeting occur?
Response. I don't remember the exact month, but indeed it was in 2005, says the witness, because it was part of the announcements that the military had to be established and how the military would be organized.
Juste une précision.
Just a clarification, sir. For the record, I'd ask that you not read what is before you. Sir, please do not read the document before you.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Now, what I heard was 2005. That was a misstatement. I'm sure you meant 1975. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, that's what I was referring to. It was 1975.
Merci. Vous venez de dire...
Thank you. You've just said that the ceremony dealt with the reorganization of the army. How long did the ceremony last? Did it span several days? Can you please be specific about the duration of the ceremony? and of that meeting?
Response: I don't remember this very well. I don't remember the duration. But I remember that the event took place the whole day.
Est-ce que la création de la...
Were the creation of Division 801 and other divisions a significant decision? And if so, can you please tell us why?
Response: These three divisions were the important divisions to be monitoring Phnom Penh, and the other three military sections were also combined. These include divisions 801, 703, and 605.
Lors de cette cérémonie,
And during that ceremony, can you please tell us who announced or unveiled the establishment of the divisions? You talked about several leaders, and you talked about 21 leaders. So were they the ones who announced before a crowd of thousands the establishment of these divisions?
Response: Only the commanders and the general commanders of the army would be the ones who announced the establishment of these divisions. I was at that time rather young to know the detail of this, but I believe that these people were senior officials in the army, officers in the army.
j'ai pas bien compris votre réponse.
I'm not sure I entirely understood your answer. Why did you say that you were too young? Are you saying that you don't recall the names of those who announced the establishment of the divisions? Could you please clarify?
Response: I don't remember the general commander who made such announcement. It could either be Chit Chun or Son Sen.
Ce matin,
In January 2013, when you took the stand before this chamber, Mr. Co-Prosecutor gave you a copy of an issue of the revolutionary flag. He then asked you a series of questions on that document. Do you recall this?
Response: No, I don't.
Alors, je vais vous donner quelques.
Very well. I'll just provide you some details to see if this will trigger your memory. The co-prosecutor provided you a copy of the revolutionary flag, and in it was an article describing a ceremony that was held at the Olympic Stadium in 1975. And to that effect, some of the matters raised during that particular meeting was the army. Do you recall this question being put to you by the co-prosecutor?
Response. I think that rings the bell. And the reason I did not really respond to the question because this event happened a very long time ago, and I could not risk telling things that I'm not quite sure.
And you are right, in fact. Earlier on, when my colleague in the new on-chair defense team spoke to you about the revolutionary flag, you explained that before receiving this copy of revolutionary flag, you had received 2 of them before. Do you remember that answer? You had 2 of them in your possession.
Response. Yes, I do.
And among these 2 copies of revolutionary flag that you had before subscribing to it, was anything said about the ceremony on the creation of Division 801, which you attended?
Est-ce que vous vous souvenez?
Do you remember this detail or not?
Response. It stated in the revolutionary, the magazines, the detail of the event, but I just cannot remember. It was there in the paper, but because of lack of interest, I don't think I still remember all these details, and that's all.
Thank you. And in the copy you had, mention was made of the creation of your division. Is that so?
Response. Yes.
Tout à l'heure,
Earlier on, when the Nguyen Chair Defense questioned you regarding this meeting, and in particular on the reasons why you remember the number of 21 high-ranking leaders attending this meeting, then you start suddenly speaking about a written program. And I believe I understood from your answer, but of course there might be a translation issue, so I'm going to ask you please to clarify. But I believe I understood that you said that if you are able to remember this figure of 21, it is because you counted 21 leaders in this written program. Is that what you were trying to tell us?
Yes, I did read the program. of the conference.
Et quand vous aviez
And when you were questioned in 2009 and 2010 4 times by the OCIJ, you never spoke about the program. So is there a reason why?
I do not quite understand what you are really asking me now. I do not really understand.
Je vais la répéter, monsieur.
I will repeat the question, therefore. This morning, I believe, was the first time you were speaking about the existence of a document, of a program that was written down, that was distributed to the participants in this meeting. Because after rereading, however, the 4 statements you signed in 2009 and 2010, that is to say, after you were questioned by the OCIJ, I did not see that you spoke about such a program. So I'm therefore asking you if this is something you remembered, and why didn't you speak about this program before the OCIJ?
As I testified earlier, I do not recall the past event very well. I did not have any documentation with me. I only try to recall the truth so that it is conducive to ascertaining the truth, because I know that the court would like to hear the truth. However, I cannot recall everything. I can only recall some of the events. And when I respond to your question, sometimes I could not provide a complete detail of the event.
Je comprends très bien, monsieur.
I understand perfectly well, and that is absolutely normal. If someone asked me to remember events that happened more than 30 years ago, I would also have a lot of trouble. And, indeed, regarding my client, Mr. Kyosompon, I wish to ask you a very simple question. Are you 100% sure that he attended this meeting? Or in your mind, is it possible that you don't remember quite precisely?
Mr. Kyosompon was present because he was the chairman of the state presidium, but I did not know the rank he held during that conference. I did not know what rank he came for, during that conference.
I would like now to revisit an expression that you were questioned on, so that you may clarify things for us. And this is the expression 7 super traders, the 7 Lone Null super traders. And during the hearing of 11 January, it was between 1:35 and 1:37 in the afternoon, you were questioned on this expression, and on the first time when you had heard this expression. And you said that this was an expression that was used by a lot of people, and as of the Lone Null coup. So can you confirm this? Do you stand by that answer you gave us in January?
For this particular so-called super traitor, I do not know, and I do not even recall whether or not I made mention the 7 super traitor. I do not recall it now.
I am going to read to you again the few lines in question. So this is after 1:35 in the afternoon on January 11th. And the prosecutor is asking you regarding those who worked for the Lon Nol regime. Did you, during that period, before you went to Phnom Penh, did you hear any broadcasts over the radio or receive information by other channels provided by leaders of the movement regarding the 7 super traders of the Lon Nol regime? Did you hear about the 7 super traders of the Lon Nol regime? And you answer, and I quote, yes, I heard about that. After the coup d'etat, then there was the creation of the front, especially in the countryside, and those who suffered were trying to follow the front policy. And a little bit later on, you continue and you say, this goes back away. The information was passed from one person to another. But I can't recall the original source of that information. Everyone was well aware of that sentence. That's what you said to us in January. Do you remember?
No, I did not say it, and I did not mention anything about the 7 super traitors because I did not know them as to who they were, so I did not make any such statement.
Well, this is the transcript, this is the record. I can accept that you have forgotten it, but telling us that you did not say it, well, that means that the entire court was in error. That means the people who noted down what you were saying and that the translators were wrong, and this seems to be a bit too much. So, are you so sure about this? Are you really sure that you never said this before the chamber?
No, I did not say this. I did not know who the 7 super traitor was. This is to my knowledge and my understanding now. I did not say that.
Bien.
Well, fine. Okay, I will take note of this. And now let me turn to my last question, which involves clarification you provided us when you were being questioned by the investigators. When you were telling them how old you are and where you were living and what your occupation is, and you specified that you were also president of a veterans organization. So can you tell us a little bit about this? What is this veterans organization?
I can only clarify that this veteran association was not an association that members are paid. Actually, it was a gatherings of veterans from different parts of the country, from the center level to the lower level, and I was only in charge of this association at the district level, sector level.
And the veterans in question, are these veterans from the Revolutionary Army who fought in the period that we are dealing with here in this court?
No, the veteran from all parties, including the government as well. It was not confined to any faction, but it's a veteran of people from all factions.
I don't understand your answer, I'm sorry. So what do you mean, veterans from all factions? Could you please be more specific about this?
In the military rank of the royal government of Cambodia, actually they came from different factions, and then they rallied the government and they joined the one unified army. So the composition of these soldiers actually came from different factions, and veterans who are now handicapped, or some of them are already retired, then they joined this veteran association. However, they were the veteran of the government. However, they came from different military factions.
Yes, okay, but after 1979, so you continued being a soldier?
Yes, I have been a soldier up until 2002. I retired in 2002.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you, witness. Now I understand better. I have no further questions, Mr. President.
The President. Thank you, Counsel. Thank you, witness, Mr. Chamsai. Your testimony has come to an end, and your presence at the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia is no longer needed. You are now released. You may go back home or to any direction you wish to go. And on behalf of the chamber, I would like to thank you very much for taking time to provide testimony before the chamber, and we thank you very much for being patient. Thank you for endeavoring to respond to all the questions put to you by all the parties and the chamber, and your testimony will be contributing to ascertaining the truth, and we wish you the best of luck and safe trip back home. Court officer is instructed to coordinate with the Wesu unit to facilitate the transport of the witness back to his direction. And the time is now appropriate for the day adjournment. The chamber will adjourn now, and we will resume tomorrow on Tuesday, the 9th of April 2013, starting from 9 o'clock in the morning. And from tomorrow, the chamber will hear the testimony of TCW 536. security guards are now instructed to bring the co-accused back to the detention facility and have them back tomorrow before 9 o'clock in the morning. The court is now adjourned.